Hey everyone, this is Six Path Weeb, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into part 2 of our fanfiction series, What If Naruko Carried a Rare Dōjutsu Within Her Bloodline? Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer, this video is purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage featured here, all rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's jump straight into the story. 2 days later, Hokage Mansion, midday. Sarutobi Hiruzen was sighing in frustration as he faced the eternal rival of every Hokage, paperwork. Ah, Minato. You left me with this endless sea of reports, the elderly Hokage thought while rubbing his temples, trying to ease the growing headache. A knock came at the door. With a deep breath, Hiruzen called, "Come in." The door opened, and Naruko walked in with Kakashi at her side. At once, Hiruzen felt his mood lift. For some reason, Naruko always managed to bring a smile to his face, even on the most stressful days. "Hey, GG. Mission accomplished," Naruko announced cheerfully. The Hokage set aside his papers, filled his pipe, and lit it. "That's wonderful news. So, what did you discover in Uzushio?" he asked warmly. Naruko grinned mischievously. "Before I explain, could you please dismiss the Anbu guards?" With a nod, Hiruzen gestured, and the masked shinobi quietly left the room. Naruko approached the desk, placed her palm on its surface, and exclaimed, "Fuinjutsu, seal of privacy." Both Kakashi and Hiruzen widened their eyes at her skill. "Kakashi, I wasn't aware you had been teaching Naruko Fuinjutsu," the Hokage remarked in surprise. "I didn't," Kakashi replied curiously. "Care to explain, Naruko?" Naruko smirked. "What was one of the first things you taught me, Kakashi-sensei?" "Deception is a shinobi's greatest tool." Kakashi's single eye softened with approval. "You learn quickly, Naruko. And you're a great teacher, Kakashi-ni," she replied with a grin, earning an amused smile from the Hokage. "All right," Hiruzen said, leaning forward. "Tell me what happened in Uzushio." For the next 45 minutes, Naruko recounted everything in detail. With each revelation, Hiruzen and Kakashi became more astonished. By the time she finished, their expressions looked frozen with disbelief, eyes wide and jaws slack. Naruko laughed softly at their reactions. That about sums it up. Hiruzen, meanwhile, was lost in thought. She may truly have the spirit of a Hokage one day. And when that happens, perhaps I can finally retire. She would carry the will of fire forward, and I could enjoy some peace at last. Yes, that could work. Naruko shivered at the mischievous glint in her grandfather figure's eyes. "I don't like the look of that." Steadying herself, Naruko grew serious. "There's one more thing, Hokage-sama. Beneath the Uzukage's tower, there were ceremonial masks. There should have been 27. But one was missing." Hiruzen's face became solemn. "Which mask was absent?" The mask of the Reaper," Naruko answered carefully. The Hokage's shoulders tensed, and for a moment he seemed much older. Still, he waved it off with a calm tone. "That is not a matter you need to burden yourselves with right now." Kakashi accepted the answer silently. Naruko stretched her arms. "Well, GG, if that's all, I'm hungry. Kakashi-ni and I were planning to train later, too." Hiruzen smiled knowingly. "I'm afraid Kakashi has another mission today. Perhaps he can arrange someone else to train with you." Kakashi's eye crinkled with amusement. "Oh, I have the perfect person in mind." 20 minutes later. "Naruko. Your youthful energy shines bright today. For our warm-up, we shall run around Konoha 100 times. If we cannot, then we shall do 1,000 one-arm push-ups. And if we cannot..." The enthusiastic voice could only belong to one person, Might Guy, standing proudly in his green jumpsuit, bowl-cut hair shining in the sunlight, his thick eyebrows raised dramatically. Naruko froze, staring at him in disbelief. Of all people Kakashi-ni could have chosen. It had to be him. Troublesome. "Let us begin," Guy declared, vanishing in a blur of green energy, leaving only a dust cloud in his wake. Naruko blinked. "That's a warm-up? No thanks, I'm getting some ramen." Ichiraku Ramen Shop, evening. "Hey, Oji-san. Start me off with my usual, I'm starving," Naruko said eagerly as she sat at the counter. Tucci emerged from the back with a grandfatherly smile. Well, if it isn't my best customer. "How have you been, Naruko? Haven't seen you in a while." "Training every day, trying to improve myself, and attending the academy," Naruko replied, brightening when Tucci set a steaming bowl of miso ramen in front of her. Where's Ayame-ne-chan? She went to get supplies. At this rate, you'll have eaten everything before she returns, Tucci chuckled. Naruko laughed sheepishly, scratching the back of her head. For the next half hour, Naruko chatted happily while enjoying her favorite meal. When she was done, she paid her bill and left with a contented smile. On the street. It's getting late. Maybe I should head home, Naruko thought, when suddenly a green blur appeared. Naruko. Is that what you call running? Come, let your youth explode with energy. Before Naruko could react, Guy scooped her up in his enthusiasm and launched forward with incredible speed, so fast that Naruko tumbled into a wall by accident. Unfortunately, the wall happened to belong to the women's hot springs. Eek! Naruko, what are you doing here? Several women shouted in shock, though Naruko quickly scrambled up, waving her hands. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. She tried to explain, but a chorus of flustered voices chased her out in a hurry. Outside, Guy coughed awkwardly and began whistling as though nothing had happened. Ah, the path of youth is full of surprises, he thought before jogging away in another green blur. Naruko sighed deeply, her face red with embarrassment. Why do these things always happen to me? Naruko's apartment, 1 hour later. Naruko lay on her bed, her face sore from her earlier encounter, and muttered to herself while staring at the ceiling. If I see that overenthusiastic green-clad shinobi again, I'll make sure to challenge him properly. Oh, and Kakashi-ni, I've got something prepared for you too, hee hee hee. Cough, cough, Naruko chuckled quietly before yawning. This cough. Time for some sleep. The next morning. A loud knock on her door woke Naruko. She rubbed her eyes and shuffled over to answer. Yeah, she began, but before she could finish, someone grabbed her collar and lifted her up. Hey! What's the big idea? Naruko shouted, squinting against the sunlight. It's about time, Naruko. You've missed an entire week of class, and I won't allow it anymore, scolded Iruka-sensei firmly. Oh no, I completely forgot about the academy today. I'll just have a shadow clone fill in during lunch so I can sneak in some training, Naruko thought. Iruka-sensei, can I at least shower and get ready first? Naruko asked hopefully. No. You're already 3 hours late, Iruka replied, clearly frustrated. Okay. I was having such a nice dream until you interrupted, Naruko huffed. Iruka frowned. The only thing you seem to focus on is sleeping. If you put half that energy into studying and training, you wouldn't always be at the bottom of the class. If only you knew, Iruka-sensei. Naruko thought quietly. Can you at least put me down? She asked. Not until we're in class, Iruka said with his usual big head scolding technique. Naruko crossed her arms and sighed in defeat. The academy, a few minutes later. Iruka marched into class, still carrying Naruko by the collar. The students burst out laughing. Ha, look who finally showed up late again, Naruko, Kiba teased, with Akamaru perched happily on his head. Be quiet, dog breath. Naruko shot back, sticking out her tongue. Kiba jumped up angrily, but Iruka quickly intervened. That's enough. Naruko, take your seat. Today we'll be learning. Just then, the lunch bell rang. Iruka's frustration grew so large it could have rivaled the Hokage's tower. When he turned around, the classroom was already empty, except for Shikamaru, who yawned as he got up. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered before leaving. Naruko, Iruka roared, his voice echoing across the entire village. Outside the academy. Shikamaru and Choji found Naruko lounging beneath a tree. Iruka-sensei is really upset with you, Naruko. Why are you always late? And your excuses are terrible, Shikamaru asked lazily, lying back in the grass while Choji crunched on chips. They're not excuses. They're true, Naruko protested. Shikamaru smirked. Really? Like, I was lost on the path of life. Or a black cat crossed my path so I had to take the long way? Okay, fine. Naruko pouted. But I don't need a lecture from someone who naps all day in class. She stood, brushing herself off. I'll be back soon. Class starts in 30 minutes. You'll probably be late. Again, Shikamaru yawned. I'll make it on time, don't worry. Naruko waved as she walked off. A hidden alley, minutes later. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruko whispered. Hey, Boss, what's up? Her clone asked. Go to the academy, stay quiet, and no sleeping in class. Irika's already upset with me, Naruko instructed. Got it. The clone saluted before running off. Now for some real training, Naruko said with a grin, vanishing in a swirl of wind. Dash. Training ground 9. Ah, it feels great to be back, huh? What are you doing here? Naruko asked, spotting Mito Guy doing one-armed push-ups. Ah, Naruko-kun. How wonderful to see you on this beautiful day of youth, Guy shouted enthusiastically. Naruko sighed. That doesn't answer my question. Why are you here? Kakashi told me where to find you. Today, I shall help you with taijutsu and speed training. Are you ready? Guy declared, striking his usual pose. Naruko narrowed her eyes, thinking. I did say I'd challenge him next time. He's a high-level jonin, but that doesn't mean I can't give it my all. Guy called, Hajime. And blurred forward, but Naruko replaced herself with a clone just in time. From the trees, Naruko thought, I can't win in a straight fight. But maybe a few hundred clones can at least slow him down. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, she cried, filling the field with shadow clones. Guy grinned. Yes. Show me your spirit. The battle was intense, Naruko's clones charged, but Guy's speed and skill made them vanish one after another. Eventually, Guy caught Naruko by surprise with a strike, sending her tumbling, but she recovered quickly. Their spar continued, Naruko using clever tricks and unpredictable tactics to land a strong hit. Guy smiled proudly. You have incredible potential, Naruko. Kakashi has trained you well. Keep improving, and one day we will spar as equals, Guy said sincerely. Naruko grinned. It's a promise. Next time, I'll win. Guy immediately pulled out a green jumpsuit. Will you take this gift of youth? Not happening, Naruko laughed, vanishing before he could insist. Guy stood under a tree, tears streaming down his cheeks. Why does nobody accept my gifts? Then he spotted a young boy training fiercely nearby. Guy's eyes sparkled. How youthful. Dash. With Naruko. I still have 3 years at the academy. If I want to protect the people I care about, I'll need to train harder than ever. Tomorrow, my real training begins. Naruko thought determinedly, heading home. Training grounds 9. So, you want to become stronger, huh? Asked the former Anbu commander, his tone calm yet intrigued. He received a determined nod from Naruko, her bright blue eyes sparkling with resolve. Naruko and Kakashi stood in training ground 9, the air filled with quiet anticipation. Naruko explained her reasons for wanting to grow stronger, speaking with a passion that made Kakashi lift his visible brow beneath his mask. Well then, Kakashi said after a thoughtful pause, I had planned to wait until about a year before you graduated from the academy, but I suppose now is as good a time as any. Naruko perked up instantly. Really? So, are you going to teach me a new jutsu? More endurance training? Maybe a new taijutsu? Her eager rambling was cut short when Kakashi lifted a slip of paper between 2 fingers. Nope. With this, Kakashi replied simply. Naruko tilted her head curiously. If this is another one of your silly tricks, Kakashi-sensei, I'll. She crossed her arms and pouted playfully, making Kakashi's sweat drop beneath his mask. This isn't a joke, Kakashi assured her. This is chakra paper. Naruko's eyes widened with recognition. Oh, I remember. That paper shows what element I have a natural affinity for, she said excitedly. Exactly, Kakashi nodded. Chakra can manifest into 5 different elements, each forming the basis of countless jutsu. You can still learn techniques outside your affinity, but they won't be as efficient, and they'll require more chakra. Still following? Naruko gave a firm nod, so Kakashi continued, the 5 main affinities are water, earth, fire, wind, and lightning. Each country often specializes in 1 or 2, though shinobi can train in many. For example, our fire country has many fire style users, but we also see earth, water, wind, and lightning users. My own specialty is lightning. Naruko grinned brightly. Okay, I think I get it. So, how do I find out mine? Kakashi held the paper out to her. Simple. If it's water, the paper becomes damp. If earth, it crumbles into dust. Fire burns it to ash. Wind splits it in 2. Lightning makes it wrinkle and crumble. Just pour in a little chakra and watch. Naruko nodded and channeled her chakra into the slip. To her surprise, the paper split neatly in half. But before she could even cheer, the half shredded into countless tiny pieces. Kakashi blinked, clearly impressed. Well now, that's unusual. What does that mean, Kakashi-sensei? Naruko asked curiously. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It seems your natural wind affinity is exceptionally strong. I've never seen it react quite like that before. We'll explore that in detail later. For now, let's move to the next step. He plucked 2 leaves from a nearby tree, handing one to Naruko. Your next exercise is to use only your wind chakra to cut the leaf in half. Watch. Kakashi held his own leaf and let his lightning chakra flow, making it crumble apart. That's the idea. While you practice this, I need to report to the Hokage. I'll be back within the hour. Oh, and use your shadow clones to speed things up. With a swirl of leaves, he vanished. Naruko's eyes gleamed with determination. All right then. Shadow clone jutsu. With a burst of smoke, hundreds of identical Narukos filled the training ground. Okay, everyone, you heard what Kakashi-sensei said. Let's cut these leaves. A chorus of enthusiastic "hi" rang out, and the training began in earnest. With the Hokage. So, you've started elemental training with Naruko, the Hokage mused with a warm smile. Quite impressive for someone her age. Is there more you wish to discuss, Kakashi? Kakashi shifted slightly, uncharacteristically hesitant. Yes, Hokage-sama. I believe it may be time to test Naruko's capabilities with her unique gift. If you permit it. The Hokage smirked knowingly. Ah, so that explains his unease. Taking a slow puff of his pipe, he exhaled thoughtfully. That is your judgment to make, not mine. If you feel she is ready, then proceed. Tenzo. An Anbu operative appeared instantly, kneeling before the Hokage. Accompany Kakashi to Training Ground 9, Hiruzen ordered. Assist him in Naruko's next stage of training, as we previously discussed. Tenzo bowed respectfully. Understood, Hokage-sama. As they departed, Kakashi glanced at his companion. It's been a while, Tenzo. How have you been? Tenzo shrugged lightly. Mostly missions. Since your retirement, I became the Anbu captain of our old platoon. Kakashi's eye softened. Team Ro couldn't have been left in better hands. That means a lot coming from you, Tenzo replied earnestly. Well, let's not keep Naruko waiting. She'll be thrilled to discover what's next. Kakashi leapt to the rooftops, Tenzo close behind, as they made their way back toward Training Ground 9. With Naruko. Naruko was still attempting to slice a leaf cleanly in half, but she found the exercise surprisingly challenging. She managed to cut only a small portion near the edge, just a few centimeters, but as the saying goes, every journey begins with a single step. Naruko had thought this task would be much easier than it turned out to be. After nearly an hour, she had made only slight progress, yet it was still something to be proud of. Just as Naruko was about to continue her practice, a familiar voice called out. Yo! Naruko, I'm back, and I brought a guest with me, Kakashi announced cheerfully as he approached. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, who's this? Naruko asked curiously, glancing at the masked shinobi who stood beside her teacher. Naruko, this is Tenzo. Tenzo, this is Naruko, Kakashi introduced. Nice to meet you, Tenzo greeted kindly. Likewise, Naruko responded with a polite smile. Kakashi then explained, the real reason I asked Tenzo to join us is because he possesses a special Kekkei Genkai. The Hokage and I want to see if your dōjutsu can copy such an ability. So, Naruko, activate your Shinwagon. Tenzo, please demonstrate. Without hesitation, Tenzo formed a series of complex hand seals, ending with the snake seal, and declared, Moku Bushin no Jutsu. In an instant, a perfect wooden replica of Tenzo emerged. Would release? Naruko exclaimed in amazement, her eyes wide with wonder. That's right, Naruko, Kakashi explained. We want to see if your ability allows you to copy wood release techniques. While your shadow clones continue practicing the leaf cutting exercise, you'll attempt to learn this. The sight astonished Naruko. Wood release was said to be unique to the legendary Senju Hashirama, and yet here stood someone capable of using it with ease. Tenzo noticed her awe and gently reminded, all right, Naruko. The hand signs are tiger, dog, and snake. The idea is similar to the shadow clone technique, but instead of simply duplicating your image, you're creating a replica born from your own energy. The first few attempts might feel unusual, but you'll adapt. To know you're doing it correctly, you'll feel a pull at the back of your neck. When that happens, add more chakra. Now give it a try. Naruko carefully mimicked the hand seals Tenzo had shown her. For the next 45 minutes, she struggled to produce results, but her determination never wavered. Giving up was simply not her way. "Alright, Naruko, you have the right idea, but you need more chakra," Tenzo advised patiently. "Watch closely with your shinwagon." Naruko's eyes sharpened with focus as she observed Tenzo repeat the technique. This time, she noticed how much chakra he used, far more than in an ordinary shadow clone technique. A replica appeared again, perfectly identical to him. "I think I understand now." "Thank you, Tenzo-sensei," Naruko said with renewed confidence. 20 more minutes passed, and although she felt a bit frustrated, Naruko decided to give it one last, concentrated effort before taking a break. Pouring significantly more chakra into the technique, she suddenly felt a strange pull at the back of her neck, just as Tenzo had described. Focusing, she pressed forward, and soon the odd sensation faded. Clapping broke her concentration. "Excellent job, Naruko. They may not look perfect, but it's a fantastic start," Tenzo encouraged. Naruko turned and gasped. Behind her stood 3 wooden clones, slightly rough in shape, resembling puppets, but still recognizable. "I honestly wasn't sure you'd manage this on the first day," Tenzo admitted with a smile. "And you didn't just create 1, but 3. That's quite an accomplishment." From his pouch, he retrieved a large scroll and handed it to Naruko. "Here, Naruko. This contains many techniques and training methods for wood release. Consider it a gift. I'll check in once a month to see your progress and guide you further. For now, I need to report back to the Hokage. Keep practicing." With that, Tenzo departed in a graceful swirl of leaves. Naruko beamed, her excitement impossible to hide. "I did it, Kakashi-sensei. Can you believe it?" Kakashi gave his trademark smile. "Well done, Naruko. While you work on refining your wood clones, I'll fetch some food for us." Before he could leave, Naruko stopped him. "Wait, Kakashi-sensei. Could I have another chakra paper? I'd like to test something." "Of course," Kakashi replied, handing her one before disappearing once again in a swirl of leaves. Channeling chakra into the paper, Naruko's eyes lit up as it split in a fascinating way. One half crumbled into dust, while the other half became moist before shredding apart. A grin spread across her face. "So if I copy a Kekkei Genkai, I also gain its elemental affinities. That must be one of the secrets Uzumaki Arashi wanted me to discover on my own. Things are getting really exciting now. The real training begins." Energized, Naruko resumed her practice, her shadow clones continuing their leaf cutting while she focused on perfecting her wood clones. 1 week later. Taking a break from training, Naruko decided to attend the academy in person instead of sending a shadow clone. With Kakashi away on a mission, it felt like a good chance to see her classmates again. She entered the classroom, choosing a seat by the window. Gazing outside, she reflected on how far she had come under Kakashi's guidance. A small, confident smile curved her lips. She knew she could hold her own against her peers, even against the prodigious Uchiha Sasuke, though Genjutsu remained as one advantage. Her thoughts were interrupted when the classroom door opened dramatically, and in walked Sasuke, followed by a group of admiring classmates. Naruko sighed softly. "Speak of the shadow, and he appears." She turned her eyes back toward the window, amused by his overly serious demeanor. A moment later, Sasuke stood before her desk. "You're in my seat. Move." Naruko turned lazily, poking her ear with her pinky as if she hadn't heard him properly. "Sorry, did you say something? Team?" she teased with a mischievous grin. "Somewhere in the land of fire." Kakashi glanced up from his sparring match with a wandering ninja, his visible eye curving into a cheerful smile. Pumping his fist in the air, he declared proudly. "I knew I'd get them to say it one day." The bewildered opponent paused, completely thrown off by Kakashi's sudden celebration. But just as quickly, Kakashi returned to his calm demeanor and continued the battle as if nothing unusual had happened. Meanwhile, with Naruko. I have the oddest feeling I just made someone's day," thought Naruko before shrugging it off with a grin. "I said you're sitting in my seat, now move," Sasuke demanded, irritation clear in his voice. "Yeah. Naruko, that's Sasuke-kun's seat, get up already," shrieked Sakura, his most enthusiastic admirer. Naruko ignored Sakura's outburst, flashing a mischievous smile instead. With a clever sleight of hand, she attached one of her self-made harmless trick tags beneath Sasuke's chair, along with another under the seat beside it. It wasn't dangerous, just a prank that would result in a very uncomfortable surprise. And, as Naruko predicted, Sakura would naturally sit right next to her beloved Sasuke. "Oh, sorry, Mr. Broody," Naruko replied with exaggerated politeness. "Here's your oh-so-special seat. May it bring you endless joy." With that, she hopped to the back of the room, ignoring the muttered protests of Sasuke's admirers. Sasuke's only response was his signature HN, before he sat down, Sakura eagerly taking the spot beside him. Naruko glanced at the clock, silently counting down. 3, 2, 1. "Now. Release," she whispered. A pop echoed through the classroom, followed by a burst of smoke that sent Sasuke and Sakura tumbling harmlessly onto the floor with startled yelps. Their chairs were singed, and their pride more than a little ruffled. The room erupted in laughter. Naruko doubled over, barely able to speak through her giggles. "Ha ha ha. Looks like the chair didn't agree with you too." Before the laughter could settle, the classroom door opened and in stepped their teacher, Iruka. His eyes widened at the sight of his two top students sprawled on the floor and the ruined chairs beside them. "Who did this?" Iruka's voice boomed, his famous big-headed jutsu making the whole class freeze. Kiba, clutching his stomach from laughing too hard, managed to wheeze out.
I think we all know who it was, Iruka-sensei."
"Ha ha ha ha." Iruka's eyes narrowed, scanning the room for a certain golden-haired student. But Naruko was nowhere to be seen. The only clue was the wide-open back window. Iruka sighed deeply before yelling in exasperation. "Naruko." The class roared with laughter once again. One thing was certain, the next 3 years were going to be very lively. 3 years later, the day before graduation. The sun had just begun to rise over Konoha, shopkeepers opening their doors to welcome the new day. In a small apartment, however, Naruko, now 13, was still sound asleep, tangled in her blankets. Her alarm clock rang furiously before meeting its untimely end under her sleepy fist. Naruko blinked at the broken pieces, yawned, and promptly went back to sleep. In the 3 years since her academy prank days, Naruko's growth had been nothing short of extraordinary. She had far surpassed Kakashi's expectations, despite not yet being an official shinobi of Konoha. Her taijutsu had reached an impressive level, even with the gravity seal she trained under daily. When removed, her speed astonished even seasoned jonin. Her unique fighting style, the whirling tide fist, blended taijutsu with her natural wind manipulation and chakra chains, creating a flow so unpredictable that even Kakashi's Sharingan struggled to track her movements. Naruko's ninjutsu was equally remarkable. Gifted with 3 chakra affinities, she mastered the leaf-cutting, moistening, and crumbling exercises with surprising speed. With Kakashi's guidance, she even succeeded in halting the flow of a waterfall using her wind release, a feat that took relentless effort but rewarded her with complete mastery of her element. Her training didn't end there. Under Tenzo's guidance, Naruko learned to wield Makuten, developing techniques that allowed her to summon forests for defense, capture, or shelter. She excelled in weapons practice, hitting bullseyes with ease, and even experimented with kenjutsu, fusing her chakra chains into her swordplay for unpredictable strikes. Though genjutsu was not her strength, Naruko trained diligently to dispel illusions, never allowing herself to remain trapped for long. Her true brilliance, however, shone in Fuinjutsu. With the help of her inherited Shinwagon, Naruko could decipher and master complex seals from her father's library, proving the ingenuity of the Uzumaki line. She had even forced herself to study politics, using her shadow clones to handle the more tedious reading, knowing that a future Hokage would need more than just strength. By now, Naruko was an exceptionally skilled kunoichi, standing just 1 day away from officially graduating and becoming a ninja of Konoha. Tomorrow, everything would change. 12 minutes after noon. Naruko was resting peacefully in her bed when a knock echoed at her door. She groaned. Today was supposed to be her well-earned day off from training. Deciding she would rather sleep in, she rolled over and pulled her blanket closer. "Knock, knock, knock. Housekeeping," called a cheerful, high-pitched voice from the hallway. Not today. Please go away," murmured Naruko, turning on her side. "Knock, knock, knock. Housekeeping. Do you need new towels?" the voice asked again. "No towels. I just want to sleep," Naruko answered with growing frustration. "Knock, knock, knock. Housekeeping. Would you like me to fluff your pillow?" the voice continued, louder this time. "For goodness sake, just let me rest," Naruko exclaimed, burying herself under the covers. Still, the knocking persisted. Naruko sat up, now wide awake, and frowned. What is going on with this person? She thought as she climbed out of bed. Standing tall at nearly 5'8", with golden hair framing her face in two neat bangs, Naruko carried herself with a presence that matched her determination. Though she often felt misunderstood, she was among the most spirited and capable in her class. With a sigh of annoyance, she shuffled to the door and opened it. To her surprise, it was her one-eyed mentor, Kakashi, smiling warmly with his usual relaxed expression. In his hands were several shopping bags. "Kakashi, was that you the whole time?" Naruko asked with narrowed eyes. "Who, me?" Kakashi replied casually. "I only just arrived." Naruko raised a brow but decided not to argue. "Fine. What's in the bags?" "These are for you," Kakashi explained with his gentle eye smile. "Since tomorrow you'll be officially stepping forward as a shinobi, I thought you deserved a new set of clothes. That orange jumpsuit of yours is a little noticeable. I think you'll like what I picked out." "Hey! I like orange. It's my favorite color," Naruko said with a small pout. "Orange is wonderful," Kakashi replied kindly, "but every shinobi needs an outfit that helps them blend in when needed." He stepped inside and placed the bags on the table before settling onto her couch. Naruko sighed. She knew most people never understood why she clung to her bright clothes. When she was younger, few shopkeepers treated her fairly, many even charged her more than others. The jumpsuits had been something she found long ago in a forgotten box, and over time, they became her comfort during lonely nights. But today was different. Tomorrow marked a new chapter. So with a nod, she took the bags and went to try them on. 10 minutes later, Naruko emerged from her room transformed. Instead of the baggy orange outfit, she now wore a sleek black long-sleeved shirt with the proud Uzumaki insignia on the back. Her new pants were fitted yet flexible, designed in the style of the Anbu, with neat white straps securing her gear in place. Her black sandals completed the look. Kakashi's eye curved in approval. "Well now, you look rather impressive. But wait, I brought one final touch." From a scroll, he released a cloak that shimmered into view. Handing it to Naruko, he watched as she examined it closely. The cloak was a deep crimson, edged with bold black flames rising from the hem and sleeves. Along the back, written elegantly, were the words Uzumaki Naruko, framed by spirals and intricate symbols that made the design striking. "Whoa," Naruko whispered in awe before slipping it on. The cloak flowed gracefully down to her calves, making her feel regal and strong all at once. "Thank you so much, Kakashi, she said with a beaming smile. Kakashi stood and stretched. "Glad you like it. Now, I must be off for a mission, but I'll see you soon. Good luck tomorrow, you'll shine." With a swirl of leaves, he vanished. Naruko glanced at herself in the mirror, fastening the sword she had inherited from her family across her back. She grinned from ear to ear. "I look amazing. Tomorrow, when I take my exams, everyone will finally see who I really am. This is my moment." With her heart full of determination, Naruko knew her life was about to change forever. The next day, graduation day. Today was the day. The day Naruko Uzumaki would finally graduate and take her first step toward becoming a true shinobi of Konohagakure. She had worked tirelessly to reach this point, countless hours of training, pushing her limits, and never giving up. Now, she would have the chance to prove to her classmates, her teachers, and the villagers how far she had come. The morning sun had only just risen, yet Naruko was already wide awake, standing proudly in the middle of Training Ground 9. A gentle breeze swept across the field, ruffling her golden hair as she closed her eyes and allowed herself a quiet moment of reflection. This place had been her training ground for years, where she had sparred, stumbled, and improved under the guidance of Kakashi and Yamato. Now, she stood here one last time before stepping into her new life. With determination lighting her eyes, Naruko turned her back on the empty field and made her way toward the academy. As she walked through the village, many of the townsfolk glanced at her curiously. They didn't immediately recognize her, dressed as she was in her new attire, carefully chosen with Kakashi's help. A small smile tugged at her lips, she didn't mind. For once, she wasn't being singled out in the usual way. Instead of walking the entire way, Naruko decided to use the body flicker technique. In an instant, she vanished in a swirl of wind and reappeared at the academy gates, excitement bubbling inside her. Even though she was early, an entire hour before the others, Naruko couldn't wait any longer. She hurried into Iruka-sensei's classroom, pushing open the door to find him seated at his desk, surrounded by papers. Iruka looked up, his eyes widening in surprise. Before him stood a young kunoichi with golden hair, bright blue eyes, and whisker-like marks on her cheeks. Her crimson cloak edged with black flames made her look strikingly similar to the late 4th Hokage. And Naruko? Iruka asked, blinking in disbelief. Grinning from ear to ear, Naruko replied cheerfully, the one and only, Iruka-sensei. Iruka nearly fell out of his chair. Impossible. You're here an entire hour early. Naruko puffed out her cheeks. I'm not that bad. Iruka sighed but smiled gently. Naruko, you have the most tardies in academy history. Honestly, I was just about to come find you myself to make sure you didn't miss your graduation. But since you're here, I suppose I can finish some paperwork before class starts. Just. Please, no pranks today. I promise, Iruka-sensei. No pranks, Naruko said with a nod. When Iruka left, Naruko sat at the back of the room, her heart racing with excitement. Soon, her classmates began filing in, chatting loudly. And, as always, Sasuke Uchiha entered to the adoration of his fan club. A short while later, Mizuki-sensei arrived as well, followed by Iruka. Once everyone was seated, Iruka used his exaggerated big head jutsu to silence the noisy classroom. The students immediately quieted, and Iruka began roll call. Uzumaki Naruko, he called. Here. Naruko responded with a bright smile. Many jaws dropped. Some of the girls even blushed. Could this confident and composed young woman really be the same Naruko they remembered? Iruka quickly continued. As you know, today is your graduation exam. There are 2 parts, a written exam to test your basic knowledge, and an ninjutsu demonstration of the 3 fundamental techniques. Once you pass, you will receive your forehead protector and officially become shinobi of the hidden leaf. The written test began. Naruko focused hard, completing it with time to spare. She noticed Mizuki watching her with a strange expression, but she brushed it aside for the moment. Finally, her turn came for the ninjutsu portion. All right, Naruko, Iruka said encouragingly. First, the replacement technique. Iruka tossed an eraser toward her, and with a puff of smoke, a log took her place. Naruko reappeared by the window with a playful grin. Well done. Iruka praised. Now, the transformation technique. Naruko nodded, forming the technique flawlessly, transforming into a perfect likeness of the 3rd Hokage. Iruka's eyes lit up with hope. Excellent. Now for the final test, the clone technique. Please create 2. Naruko winced inwardly. The standard clone technique had always been her weakness. She gave it a try, but the result was a pale, wobbly version of herself. Iruka frowned, clearly concerned. May I try a different version of the technique, Iruka-sensei? Naruko asked politely. Iruka hesitated, then nodded. Go ahead. Naruko placed her hands together and called out confidently, Shadow Clone Jutsu. A thick cloud of smoke filled the room. When it cleared, 10 identical Narukos stood side by side, each one smiling brightly. Iruka's jaw dropped. Incredible. He quickly handed her a forehead protector. Congratulations, Naruko. You pass. Naruko's grin stretched wider as she tied the Hitai 8 proudly around her forehead. She had done it. She was finally a shinobi of the hidden leaf. As she walked out, she noticed Mizuki giving her a strange, sharp look. But Naruko, filled with joy, decided not to worry. Whatever came next, she was ready. Outside the academy. Naruko walked out of the academy with a bright grin, her arms resting behind her head as she proudly displayed her Hitai 8. Around her, many of her classmates were being congratulated by parents and relatives. Naruko's smile faded a little as she noticed, once again, that no one had come to cheer for her. No parents. No family. No one waiting. She began walking aimlessly, her sandals tapping softly against the ground. Passing by other families, Naruko heard the familiar whispers that always seemed to follow her. How could they let that girl become a shinobi? No one's here for her. Figures. Each word stung, but Naruko simply lowered her eyes and continued walking until she was out of sight. With a quiet shunshine, she disappeared from the crowd. Hidden nearby, Mizuki had seen and heard everything. He smirked to himself. Perfect. All I need to do is win her trust, and the Funno show will be mine. With that, he vanished in a swirl of leaves. Unbeknownst to him, the crowd of people faded away into a puff of smoke. It had all been an illusion. Atop the Hokage monument. Naruko sat cross-legged on the 4th Hokage's stone head, gazing down at the glowing village. Despite the view, her frown lingered. She remained lost in thought until a familiar voice spoke. What's troubling you, Naruko? Without turning around, She replied dryly, "What do you want, Mizuki-sensei?" Mizuki sat beside her, his tone soft and kind. "I came to congratulate you. Passing the Jinan exams is no small feat. I imagine it's difficult when no parents are there to celebrate with you. And the villagers? Well, they don't always treat you kindly." Naruko narrowed her eyes, suspicious. "And what are you really getting at?" "I only wanted to say congratulations since no one else has," Mizuki answered smoothly. "But I do have a question. Haven't you ever thought about standing up to those villagers? About proving yourself with power?" Naruko shrugged and lay back, watching the clouds drift across the clear blue sky. "I don't think about things like that. If I wasted my time trying to get back at everyone who looked at me the wrong way, I wouldn't get anywhere. Besides, I want to grow stronger for my own path." Mizuki's smile darkened slightly. "What if I told you there's a way to gain great power? Enough to finally show everyone your true strength?" Curious, Naruko tilted her head. "I'm listening." He leaned closer. "Inside the Hokage Tower lies the Fun no Sho, a sacred scroll filled with forbidden techniques. With it, you could gain incredible strength. Together, we could leave this village behind and start anew." Naruko pretended to think it over, then asked calmly, "And when would this happen?" Mizuki handed her a slip of paper with a map. "Tonight. 2 in the morning, at this shack just outside the village walls. Don't be late." As Mizuki vanished in another swirl of leaves, Naruko's expression shifted into a small, sly smile. "Did you hear that, Hokage Oji-san? Kakashi ni-san?" she asked aloud. 2 puffs of smoke revealed the third Hokage and Kakashi, both nodding gravely. "Yes, Naruko," said Hiruzen with a heavy sigh. "I can't believe Mizuki would betray the village this way." Kakashi adjusted his mask. "Shall I intercept him now, Hokage-sama?" Hiruzen shook his head. "No. Naruko will carry on with Mizuki's plan. She will be the one to stop him. Kakashi, you will observe from the shadows and intervene only if absolutely necessary." Turning to Naruko, Hiruzen's voice grew firm. "This will be your first official mission as a shinobi of Konoha. Can you handle it?" Naruko stood proudly, determination burning in her eyes. "Yes, Hokage-sama. With my ninja way on the line, I will not fail." Both elder shinobi smiled at her confidence before disappearing into the night. Naruko smirked. "He said he didn't recommend reading the scroll. But he didn't forbid it. Guess I know how I'll spend my time." Later that night. By the time the moon was high, Naruko was outside the village walls, catching her breath. The Fun no Sho lay open in front of her. She had spent hours studying and had even managed to learn a challenging new technique. Her heart swelled with pride. "Naruko, do you read me?" Kakashi's voice echoed softly through the earpiece. "Yes," she whispered back. "Is he here yet?" "He should arrive any moment. Remember the questions we discussed. Stay sharp, I'll step in if necessary." Naruko tied the scroll to her back just as Mizuki appeared on a tree branch above. Well, he said. "I'm impressed you managed to take the scroll." Naruko smirked. "My years of pranks taught me a thing or two about slipping past guards. Even Onbu have trouble catching me." "Clever girl," Mizuki chuckled. "Now, hand over the scroll and let's go." Naruko tilted her head. "Before that, where exactly are we going?" Mizuki's expression tightened. "Otogakur. To meet someone very powerful." "Someone?" Naruko pressed. "One of the legendary Sannin. Orochimaru. He promised me the strength I've long desired." Naruko's sharp eyes caught the impatience building in him. "And are there others working with you?" "Enough questions," Mizuki snapped. "Give me the scroll." Naruko sighed playfully. "You might want to check behind you first." Before Mizuki could react, a chakra chain burst upward, knocking him off balance. Naruko leapt forward, her movements precise and fierce. Strikes landed against his defenses, each one forcing him backward. Mizuki fought desperately, but Naruko pressed on, her training clear in every motion. With a burst of energy, Naruko created a shadow clone feint, luring Mizuki into a trap. As he charged recklessly with his giant shuriken, the clone exploded in harmless smoke, leaving Mizuki stunned. Chains wrapped around him, pinning him in place. Exhausted, Mizuki collapsed. Naruko quickly sealed him into a containment scroll. Kakashi appeared, clapping softly. "Excellent work, Naruko. You handled yourself brilliantly, and that was a perfect application of your training. I'm proud to call you my student." Naruko smiled brightly, her earlier sadness long gone. Thanks, Kakashi-ni-san. Let's go report back to the Hokage. With that, the two vanished into the night, leaving behind only the whisper of swirling leaves. Hokage Tower, 15 minutes past 3. Excellent work, Naruko. Although you went against my instructions and still peeked into the Fun no Show, I will overlook it this time. You have performed remarkably, and as a reward, here is your payment for completing an A-rank mission. The elderly Hokage spoke warmly, his eyes filled with pride as he handed the blonde kunoichi an envelope. Naruko opened it and her bright blue eyes widened in surprise. The amount inside could easily cover 3 months' worth of meals at Ichiraku's. She smiled, however, already planning to use her earnings responsibly rather than spending them carelessly. Thank you so much, Hokage Oji-san. Not to sound ungrateful, but may I head home to rest now? I'm completely exhausted. Naruko asked with a cheerful grin, earning a kind-hearted laugh in return. Of course, Naruko. Kakashi and I will finish matters here. Just remember to take your photo for your shinobi identification card tomorrow afternoon, replied Hiruzen gently. As if I could forget that. Well then, I'll see you all later. Naruko called out before vanishing gracefully in a whirl of wind. After Naruko left, Hiruzen turned to Kakashi with a thoughtful expression. Do you know what I consider 2 of the greatest decisions I have ever made as Hokage, Kakashi? Kakashi tilted his head and raised an eyebrow curiously. No, what would those be, Hokage-sama? A small, nostalgic smile touched the Hokage's lips. The first was stepping down as Hokage and entrusting the title to Minato as my successor. And the second, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked, clearly intrigued. The second was appointing you as Naruko's teacher. She was so lonely as a child, yet you guided her. You became a mentor, almost like family to her. You trained her, encouraged her, and supported her growth. Now look at her, because of your guidance, she has blossomed into an exceptional shinobi. That decision remains one of the ones I am most proud of. Kakashi's single visible eye softened into a smile. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen shook his head gently. No, Kakashi-san. Thank you. Dear YouTube family. That's a wrap for now, cherry blossom emoji. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps this journey alive and growing. Thank you for being part of the 6-Path Weeb community, where every step takes us deeper into the world we love. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and stay Weeb, sparkles emoji. With gratitude. 6-Path Weeb.